familiar with the term stutter stepping or orb walking, this might be a refresher course for some of you guys. It might be something brand new. It's a mechanic that's pretty easy to learn at the basic concept and really difficult to master. All it is at its core, it's a form of animation canceling. So this is going to apply to everybody who is in melee, especially. And there are those of you that are in warbows, longbows. It applies to all those weapons. Some of the weapons that you won't see this used very much on is the arcane, the fire staffs. It's kind of hard to do because you can't cancel an animation on a 2-second cast time. So the principle still applies. It's still really good for you guys to learn how to do it so that when the time comes, you will be able to do it successfully and it will benefit you a lot. So what stutter stepping is as you are auto-attacking someone, there is an animation that goes off for your auto-attack. And the auto-attack actually registers the damage partway through the animation. And so while you are sitting there when you're dealing damage to somebody, the animation goes off and then the animation finishes. And if you aren't moving around, then you're not even going to notice. You're just going to think that that's the whole auto attack. So if I sit here and I attack Rook, you see the full animation. If I do the animation cancel, my weapon is still moving as I'm running backwards. That's pretty obvious, right? So basically what it is you activate the auto attack very simply. I highly suggest that you guys use the spacebar to do your auto attacks instead of continuously clicking, because you actually can't do it if you're not using a hotkey for it. So all you do is you target the person you want to attack, and then you hit the spacebar, and then immediately as soon as you start the animation for the attack, you're going to go ahead and click in another direction. Now, you can move in any direction, and the reason that it's really good to do this is because it allows you to continuously set up for any situation that happens. So as I'm sitting here auto-attacking Rook, if somebody's approaching from the north, I can kind of kite around Rook to get away from the enemy as I'm getting ready. Or I can chase Rook as Rook is moving. I can continuously move with him because I'm not waiting for the full animation. So he's going to have less time to run away. So the whole concept kind of comes together in 2 core points. The first point is that you want maximum number of auto attacks per second. So if I'm going to sit here and auto attack, you see how fast my auto attack is. I can maintain that as I move. The second point is that you want to move the maximum distance from the initial point. So usually it's not going to be very much. It'll be like a meter or 2. But if I'm hitting him and I move a meter in between each auto attack, then I'm going to be able to chase him for farther. And especially on weapons that have stuns, that have slows, that have different types of utility, it makes it so that you can continually maximize the utility of your weapon. My weapon stuns every 5 auto attacks, so the most auto attacks I get on Rook as I'm chasing him, the sooner I get a stun on him, which allows me to then continue to get in front of him and make it so that he can never get away from me. And vice versa with the bow. I know a lot of people are using bows. One thing that's really important when using the bow is that you kite effectively. And so I've seen people, both in the guild, in the alliance, in duels in town, when you're not as proficient at the bow, you'll sit there in your auto attack, and as the person is running up to you, you will just let them attack you or do whatever. And then once they get on top of you, then you try to run away. Well, what you could do is you could be auto attacking, and as they're running towards you, you auto attack them and click backwards. Auto attack, click backwards. And if you have that slowing poison, you will slow them. Then you stun them and you continue to walk backwards. Then use your frost shot, jump away from them, continue to walk backwards, and they will get the least amount of attacks on you total. So it's a really good thing to learn to use. It benefits you for most weapons. The ones with the cast time, like I said, kind of difficult to use. It's still important that you move in between casts, because the whole point of stutter stepping is to maximize the distance that you travel without cutting down on your damage efficiency. Are there any questions?
I think a neat thing too there, AJ, was that you're not just clicking on somebody and allowing the computer to follow me. You're cutting off my movement by anticipating where I'm going, seeing the curve or whatever it is. You're now moving I don't want to say the correct way, but you know what I mean? It's like an Eve, the people that just hit follow on a plane, like it doesn't do anything. You gotta actually fly your ship. You gotta move your character by clicking on the screen and hitting that space bar and getting those attacks in.
Right. And another thing that I noticed is when you do this, because of the fact that you are clicking on the ground, you are choosing a very direct direction that you're moving after every action that you do. It increases your response time by quite a bit. Rook and Mushnar and Test Case, and I think it was Sunshine, a couple days ago, we were in a dungeon and we were testing out the cleanse ability, which is AoE removes all CC from you and your teammates. And so we would go into the dungeon, and Rook would let himself get stunned just to test it out, and then he would call for a cleanse. And it's really noticeable when he calls for cleanse, and I'm sitting there pacing back and forth between everything that I'm doing. He calls cleanse. All I have to do to respond to that is click in the direction of him, as opposed to thinking, oh, okay, he wants me to cleanse, I probably need to walk towards him, right? It's kind of a second nature thing. And so your response time is almost instantaneously. You walk towards him, you hit cleanse, it's done, and there's no extra thinking that has to be done because of the fact that you are deliberately choosing each direction that you are running. And it's random. So on top of that, you also dodge a lot of skill shots. Yugo Rock is a testament to the fact that I was dueling him the other day, and he was playing Pullhammer with that range stun. And I was sitting right on top of him, and I was running in random directions after every auto attack, and he missed a good 3 of his stuns simply because he couldn't tell which way I was going to go. And so the same thing applies in the open world. If you are running back and forth in random directions, going wherever it is that you need to go, and not just allowing the computer to dictate the direction that you're going to run based on the action you want to do, then you're going to be able to dodge skill shots without even trying. And it'll make it a lot harder for your enemy.
Question,
AJ.
AJ.
It's pretty close to your character too, right? Like you're not far away, so it's easy to change direction.
Yeah, it's usually about if you're melee, it's typically auto attack range. So in most situations, unless I'm, in a pinch and you're trying to move in a direction that's farther away, you might move your mouse farther away, but typically your mouse is going to almost orbit your character in auto attack range for melee.
I have a question, AJ.
What's that?
Now, when you hit the spacebar for auto attack, every time you move away, do you have to re-engage by hitting spacebar?
Yes, you do. And one thing that this is just me from my personal experience, is because of the way that I have my hands situated on the keyboard, my thumb is always on spacebar. So just like using my Q or my W, when I want to use it, all I do is I automatically have my targeted, and I just hit spacebar and I move to auto attack him. Hit spacebar, move to auto attack him. And so it's just spacebar, click when you're auto attacking. It's the same way with instant spells.
Yeah, I use spacebar for push to talk, so I got to figure out an easier key because I'm always out front.
Keybinds are always a tricky thing. So I've got a bunch of keybindings that are funky too, but
You said you had a question. Go ahead.
Sorry. So is that spacebar set up by default, or I've heard people say it's like old school or something like that?
Yes, no. Spacebar is the default in this game. When in all the other MOBA games that I play, my auto attack key is actually F, and the rest of my skills are Q, W, E, R. And so my ultimate abilities, I don't usually have my finger just sitting on, and it prevents you from, just randomly face rolling your keyboard and accidentally activating a spell. But spacebar in this game is the default. Was there another question?
Yes. Does it work with holding down the right mouse button for movement?
The problem with using the mouse is that if you use the mouse to attack, like say you click, if I have to move my mouse to click on Rook, it makes it much harder for me to then move my mouse back to wherever I want to move to. Whereas if you use spacebar, all you have to do is preemptively always have your mouse in the direction you want to move, and you then just click in that direction, you move that direction.
Do you always right click, or are you?
Yeah, I just hold right click down all the time, and right click is also my auto attack. You know, I have it set to the RTS, the mouse on the RTS. So
Oh, gotcha. So I suggest you go back to having the default setting where the right click is going to be just your movement. It's the move command, and your spacebar is your attack key, or you can set it to any hotkey you want. And you're going to have to click with the button instead of holding it down, because if you do continuously hold move, then you're not even going to register the command to attack.
One more question for you. So, I mean, as far as practicing this, is this something that you could easily do just on that PvE map?
Absolutely, yes. You can practice it wherever you go. I mean, you're out skinning stuff, you can do it on those mobs. It's just a matter of you run in, or you click on the map, or you not on the map. You click on the floor near you, you auto attack, and then you click on the floor again, you auto attack, and then you click again. And when you're doing practice, I suggest rotating in a circle around the mob, because usually that's what you're going to be doing to your enemies. You're not going to, if you're chasing somebody and they're slowed or whatever, you're on top of them. If you've got multiple people, you're going to want to just continuously do this until you're on the other side. One thing that this allows you to effectively do is run down your opponent so that you're in front of them when they're running from you, instead of being behind them. Because the problem with just auto attacking somebody and then letting the computer follow, right, is you're always behind them. So the second that they get a good enough gap between you and themselves, they're just going to mount up on their horse and take off, because you have no way to stop it. But if you're constantly trying to get in front of them, it leaves less of a window for them to be able to do something like that. But as far as practicing, you can practice anywhere. I mean, you can practice in duels in town, you can practice on the mobs outside, and I do highly suggest that when you're out doing Fame and you're not doing, like, I don't know, Necros or something where you have to constantly kite and you can't get auto attacked. Just go ahead and do it. Practice kiting circles around the mobs that you're fighting. The same thing kind of goes for Warbow. I really suggest that you practice doing this as well as comboing along with your auto attacks, your W or your E spell, which is the magic arrow, and your frost shot. So typically you're going to want to do something like auto attack with, in order to practice, use the slowing poison passive. And all you do is you auto attack, you run backwards, and then you magic arrow them, and then you run backwards, and then you continuously auto attack and click backwards, and then the second they're on top of you, then you frost shot, jump backwards, and just continuously do that. And I promise you, no melee that doesn't have a gap closer will ever be able to get a single hit on you. Was that it, or was there more questions?
So under settings, you recommend double press to attack, so you're selecting with left click and then attacking with space?
I don't use double click to attack. As long as you have the attack command set to the hotkey, it'll do it automatically. You don't need to double click. I think the double click to attack is only relative to the mouse. I do recommend not using your mouse to attack somebody, though, for the most part. And only using like when you're moving through a dungeon and you need to not attack. And so in order to do that, you hold down the right mouse button so that you're only moving and never attacking.
That's really good, AJ.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
You're gonna. I'm new to it, and I just tried it on the mob. It takes a lot to get used to. It's something you seriously have to practice, because I'm missing swings because I'm moving too far, I guess.